Today we are going to discuss Mother Tongue by Amy Tan. Amy Tan is an Asian American writer whose works focuses a lot on diasporic identities. In this personal essay by Tan, she is focusing on the issue of language among diasporic community. Members of the diasporic community are often discriminated based on their fluency in English language. Here we see Tan contemplating how her background, her mother's broken English, affected her life. Her education, how it held her between two worlds, and how it brought her shame, and how ultimately she learns to embrace her background. It is a bit surprising that Tan ended up as a writer, considering the fact that she was expected to study the sciences. I was told by my former boss that writing was my worst skill and I should hone my talent towards account management. However, Tan was stubborn and determined. She made it work for her. In this essay, Tan talks about the kind of English adapted by different individuals during their migration to the US and their adjustment to the American culture. English as a second lingo and a school subject made her life in school a living hell. Tan is trying to point out aspects of cultural racism without signifying anger or clearly mentioning out the issue on language. Although most critics prove equality in America, original inhabitants always have a better life. The explanations provided by Tan prove that language greatly affects people's lives. She was giving a talk to a group of people about her book, Joylet Club, and she found herself using English that was sophisticated and complex. While she was talking, she was aware of the fact that her mother was sitting in the back. It was the first time her mother had come to hear her speak, and she was using English that she did not use around her mother. And then it hit her that the two worlds she had grown up in had impacted her writing as well as her life. When she was growing up, Tan was ashamed of the way her mother expressed herself in English, especially when she saw how salespeople in stores or bank tellers ignored or demeaned her. It seemed as though society was telling Tan that her mother's limited speech was a huge and embarrassing problem. And conversely, knowing how she was perceived, Tan's mom would make her daughter pretend to be her on the phone in order to get the kind of treatment that unaccented English receives. One funny result of this is, after calling her mom's stockbroker to complain about a delay, Tan later saw him when her mom went to see him in person and noticed his surprise that Mrs. Tan was suddenly yelling at him with a heavy accent. One less funny result of this is, after being diagnosed with a benign brain tumor, Tan's mom called the hospital to get copies of her CT scan in order to understand her exact diagnosis. Despite her pleas that her husband and son had died of brain tumors and that she was extremely worried, the hospital refused to apologize for misplacing her test results. But when Tan calls, speaking without an accent, the hospital representative is deeply apologetic and promises to correct the error. Tan wonders whether the way her family spoke English could have limited her opportunities in life. On a variety of achievement tests, her results showed that math was her far more strong suit and that her English skills were only mediocre. She found multiple choice math tests easy because each question could only have one answer, whereas language questions always seemed more nuanced and she could argue over the answer choices. Tan wonders whether this immigrant family English could be part of the reason that there aren't more Asian American authors, or why there isn't a proportionately representative number of Asian American students in creative writing programs. After all, if they all tend to do better on the math part of achievement tests because of how their parents speak, then maybe they are being guided towards those fields by well-meaning but misguided teachers. Tan rebelled against the science and math version of herself by switching from her pre-med major to English. And she again rebelled against a boss who told her she couldn't write by starting to write non-fiction, and later best-selling and award-winning fiction. Still, her early writing was trying to prove that she had mastery over English. She used flowery, overcomplicated vocabulary and syntax to demonstrate how well she could write. Eventually, she realized that to write well, she needed to imagine a reader, and the reader she imagined was her mother. So she tried to create an English that was true to what she imagined to be her mother's internal English monologues would be like, a version somewhere between English and Chinese. The essay ends with the line, "I knew I had succeeded where it counted when my mother finished reading my book and gave me her verdict." So easy to read. Tan's intended audience could be anyone that had to learn a new language to fit in where they live. She shows the readers that there is more than one kind of correct English. She often refers to the Englishes that she uses. Tan points out the narrow-minded views that many people have of people that come from different backgrounds or cultures. The use of her mother's experience shows the reader that people would judge way too quickly after hearing her mother talk. People would often assume that her mother was uneducated, even though she reads the Forbes report, listens to Wall Street Week, converses daily with her stockbroker, and reads all of Shirley MacLaine books with ease. Tan is trying to motivate people to accept the things that make them different. She is showing the audience that people will often have misconception about people that come from different countries and people that aren't easy to understand. This piece is important. It's important because it brings to the forefront a prejudice that we all hold, but one of which few of us are aware. And only by recognizing our prejudice can we begin countering. Punished for utilizing a stigmatized variety, her English will always be lesser, and this persistent denigration might deter her from pursuing her art. However, in sharing this piece, Tan offers an alternate perspective. Her mother's English has contributed to her own unique voice as a writer. It is one of the many Englishes she grew up with, and one which she acknowledges has contributed to her success as an artist. Through this essay, Tan works towards empowering other minority writers, perhaps hindered by language prejudice, to embrace their linguistic idiosyncrasies instead of degrading them.